Hey there, Andrea Seydel here. I hope you're doing as good as can be. I'm so excited because I heard that it's such a good book. And I know I say that all the time, but this one's really good. This one's close to my heart. I'm obsessed with positive psychology. And so this one is one of those must-read books, especially if you are in the world of positive psychology or just curious about happiness. So everyone, no matter how happy or unhappy, wants to be happy, right? Can you learn to be happy though? Happiness is essential. It stems from letting in positive emotions and seeing life as having purpose, pleasure, and meaning. So, is there a way that we can learn how to be happier? Right? Can we live with more meaning? Can we live with more pleasure? Can we exist in a more happier way? And the answer is yes. It's possible to learn to be happy. So in the book, Happier by Tal Ben-Shahar, he helps define what happiness means and helps us see what it means to us. Everyone, happiness means different things to different people, right? Happiness means, what does it mean to you? It's individual, right? And so he helps us explore this. He helps us look at how we can be happier in areas of our life, in all areas of our life. So Ben Shahar believes that happiness is the ultimate currency. It is the ultimate currency to being human. In his book, he really does provide practical and scientifically proven research to help with a pathway so that we can become happier. And he walks us through this. So he takes a lot from positive psychology and he wants the reader to focus on more of the good stuff, right? Like self-esteem and optimism and joy, instead of focusing on things like anxiety, depression, and neurosis. He really does focus on what makes life great and how can we make it even greater. So Happier, his book, he really does help us improve our mental state. And he helps us with success as well by identifying what we might be getting wrong about joy and how to discover what's most important to you, to us, and how we can make those things more significant in our life. So how can we make the things that make us feel really good a more significant part of our life? So let's jump in. So he talks all about why happiness is important. Happiness is the utmost human goal, and like, who doesn't want to be happy, right? And it actually is a vital contributor to success. So most people consider happiness a good life, right? They really think that it's a good life goal. And if you ask anyone, like, why are you doing something? It's amazing if they answer, well, it makes me happy. Then that answer doesn't need any validation or any justification. It is just valid in and of itself. It's because it makes us happy, right? So it's not just that, but happiness and success, they're also deeply intertwined. And research has actually confirmed this, that research on well-being conducted by psychotherapists and psychologists, Sonia Lyubomirsky, Ed Diener, and Laura King, they all found that happy people, they do better in many areas of their life and work. So when we're happier, it can actually contribute to a more flourishing life. It contributes to success on many levels, whether it's work, relationships, health, or even finance. So it's probably because, or might be because people who have a positive outlook see the world as inherently good or as a really inherently positive place. So there is a connection between happiness and success. So we're making a case here of why we want to be happier. So is happiness essential? Right? It is essential. It's essential for our well-being. It's essential for our, for success in our lives. So we want to be happier. But let's first examine what is happiness, right? So Ben Shahar, he does define happiness as an overall experience of pleasure and meaning. So pleasure comes from living in the moment and enjoying our experiences at this moment right now. So we are driven by these wonderful positive emotions that we experience. So that's what's really important. That's what happiness is. It's an overall experience of pleasure and meaning, but it's in the moment that you're in. It's not way out in the future and it's not in the past. It's an overall experience of pleasure and meaning. So we are driven by these positive emotions that we experience in the moment, right? So let's jump in and discover the power of happiness, right? It stems from two factors. And he talks about this in his book, that it's about letting in the positive emotions and also seeing life as purposeful. So it's about letting in those positive emotions and seeing life as purposeful. So in other words, it's pleasure and meaning. It's both of those two things. What brings us pleasure in the moment, but also what brings us a sense of meaning. So out of all the human emotions, psychologist Nathaniel Branden, he singled out pleasure as one of the most necessary emotions and necessary aspect of the good life, of happiness. So pleasure is necessary, but pleasure alone isn't what's going to make us happy. It's also meaning, a fulfilling life. It helps us to understand, like, integrating pleasure with meaning to help us find true happiness. So to be truly happy, we must pursue experiences that not only trigger our pleasurable emotions and make us feel pleasure, but also that have meaning and that is personal to us, that feels meaningful. So that's a major part, right? And you can see that when we talk about defining happiness, that it's an overall experience of both pleasure and meaning. I love how he defined that in his book. He also talked about this concept of, are we going to be happy now or are we going to be happy later? So to be truly happy, we'll need to assess our present life and also our future life. We need to look at both of those. So you might be running the rat race, working really hard, maybe working towards your Ph.D., maybe putting in loads and loads of hours, right? And you're just kind of like going, because you hope that someday in the future it will pay off. And this hope for better days ahead makes us not necessarily happy here, but waiting for happiness in the future. The other thing is you might be seeking out pleasure now and disregarding the future, not thinking about the future. So this idea of the other way to look at it is we want to enjoy the present moment. And we also want to understand that what we're currently doing, our current activities, they're actually going to benefit us in the future. But we want to have pleasure in what we're doing in the present and enjoy what we're doing, and that activity is going to help us also in the future. So science has confirmed that individuals that balance out the now as well as later in the future, they tend to be happier and they tend to be the happiest. So this balance is crucial for us. It's crucial for us to look. So we want to look at working towards the future. You know, some people are like, no pain, no gain, like they're go now, that philosophy. But the problem is that future happiness is perpetually postponed. It's like putting your happiness on the back burner and waiting to be happy. I'll be happy when. And that's not ideal. So instead of putting off your happiness you want to find and seek happiness in the present moment, right? So being happy in the present will allow you to also then be happy in the future. So looking for pleasure in the moment as well. So setting appropriate goals to ensure that you're not only happy in the present moment, but also it's going to lead towards future happiness as well. So that's a neat thing to think about happiness as in terms of now and the future, and kind of merging those together. Excuse me. He also talks in his book about setting goals that are in line with your meaning and your pleasure. So kind of combining those two. He wants you to ensure that you're advancing your purpose while making yourself happy. So you want to make sure you're leaning towards things that make you feel like you're advancing your purpose, or it's in line with what you're passionate about. And it's crucial to set future goals that are aligned with principles of what brings you meaning, what brings you pleasure. So try having goals that bring you closer to your future dreams while also ensuring your happiness and your pleasure in the life in the current moment that you're in. So you want to have goals that are going to bring you to your future dreams and future potential happiness, but also that ensure happiness right now, pleasure right now in this current moment. It makes sense, right? So setting those goals, thinking about your pleasure and meaning, what brings you meaning. So he talks about goals, they should be a product of your will to express yourself. He suggests that it should be authentic to our own desires rather than something about impressing someone else, or rather than being about someone else's goals and what other people might do. He says that goals need to be an expression of yourself and your authenticity. And so once you've decided on this purpose or like what brings you meaning, you can divide it into a whole bunch of short-term goals and specific actions to help get you there. And be sure that as you're moving forward, that you add some deadlines to your short-term goals, and that you're going to find pleasure in the process of getting you towards those goals. So that's really, really key, right? So pleasure in the process. He also talks about some big ideas in his book, Happier, are establish some rituals in your life, have a weekly schedule. And build them into the things, some rituals that can bring pleasure for you, is like build them into things you're already doing and establish new habits that bring you happiness. So if you're always brushing your teeth every morning, well, what's a habit that you can kind of habit stack with that, or a ritual that you can do that helps to bring you happiness? So the idea is establish rituals and new habits that bring happiness into your life. He also talks about to study and decide if you want what does bring you happiness, and happiness now, like not any undefined time in the future. Choose things that really bring you happiness now so you can enjoy the journey to your future destination, and really define and decide what those things are. He also talks about deriving meaning and pleasure from your activities. That's the foundation to your happiness. I kind of already touched on that. He talks about another tool to help increase your learning and your success is to strive for what is called flow state. And he talks about Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi's work and how he really made this concept of flow famous. And it's the idea that flow occurs when you become so engrossed rather in something, and you lose track of time, and you love what you're doing. There's enough challenge there. You're completely immersed in the process. And the more we can get into flow state really helps us enjoy that present moment and bring us happiness. He also talks about focusing on what you love, right? Identify your true self-interest. And, it's basically a life for yourself. What can make your life more enjoyable? And knowing and doing things that are enjoyable to you will actually boost your motivation. He talks about meditation, make it a ritual, let it become a practice and a commonplace, almost like when you wake up, the alarm clock goes each morning and you meditate, or whenever you can make that work. He talks about finding a career that matches your passion and makes you happy. He talks about, you determine what delivers the greatest happiness in your life. So creating a happiness map, or figuring out your currency of happiness. He talks about finding activities that put you in a flow state, as I already mentioned. So the other major thing he talks about in his book that's really worth mentioning is that you want to be happy with others. You can boost energy by dedicating time for social connections and relationships. These connections, they actually increase your long-term happiness. So by sharing your life with others, you invite them to share their life with you. And then you're also open to thoughts and feelings and experiences of all the people around you. And this exchange is really, really important. It's what brings joy, and it's about sharing joy and pleasurable experiences. Not to mention, if you're going through sorrow or challenge or struggle, it can be really comforting to know that you have connections and friends and relationships during painful times. So, connection is really important and actually contributes to our happiness as well. So, what we want to do is just make sure that we have those moments where we can have that deepness with other, that caring and that intimate lifelong relationship with others. And it is one of those best predictors for happiness, of happiness. So here's some food for thought for you. The author is often asked, "Are you happy?" And he replies the same way. That's a binary response. That's yes or no. But a more relevant question, he says, is, "How can I become happier?" So Ben Shahar, he says that happiness is an unlimited resource, right? It has no limits. We can take on the proper steps to discover, what is it that makes us happier? What is it that would make you happier? So maybe do some reflection questions, thinking about, what do you really, really enjoy doing? Write a list of all the things that bring you joy, right? These are your happiness boosters. These are things that you can tap into right away and have instant happiness. So whatever it is, make an active choice to add more of these ingredients to your schedule. Add more of these things, and don't just talk about it, actually do it. That's his message in the book. So happiness is the most significant human goal, and anyone can find it. But the first step is by identifying what matters in your life, what makes you happy. So that's it for this book. I hope you enjoyed it. My name is Andrea Seydel. I am the author and the podcast host of Saving You is Killing Me, Loving Someone with an Addiction, as well as the Live Life Happy podcast, where I highlight books and summarize books all relating to positive psychology. And I am a resilience coach, positive psychology practitioner, and I just am all about the love of learning. And I hope that you got a lot out of this, because books change lives. Now, remember, whose life will you touch with your book? If you're looking to write your book, of course, I'm also a book doula. I help people painlessly give birth to books, and I would love to help you bring your book to life as well. So thank you, everybody, and I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you got a lot out of it. Oh my gosh, I know I did. That's Happier. Learn the Secrets to Daily Joy and Lasting Fulfillment by Tal Ben Shahar. And I'm Andrea Seydel. I hope you have a wonderful day.